This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And today I'm going to be taking a look at a brand new and highly anticipated 2023 release from the greatest musician you have never heard of, the one and only guitarist, vocalist, composer, bandleader, producer, and arranger, and multi instrumentalist Steven Wilson, and this is his newest recording for Virgin Music, The Harmony Codex. So, The Harmony Codex is the newest Steven Wilson solo recording, and this marks the first time since 2021's The Future Bites that Steven Wilson has recorded and released an album featuring new material. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this album has been highly anticipated, and I can honestly tell you now, it was definitely well worth the wait. Is it a big improvement from The Future Bites? Absolutely, 100%. Is this Steven Wilson back on top form? Without a doubt, no questions asked. Steven Wilson is back and sounding better than ever. Now, for those of you who watched the previous edition where I talked about Steven Wilson's entire solo catalogue, The Future Bites was half and half, or to some people, hit and miss, depending on who you ask. So, it had some good tracks, but at the same time, there were some tracks that were a bit questionable, and to some people, it left a bit of a bad taste in their mouth. So, when Steven Wilson announced that his new album, The Harmony Codex, was coming out, expectations were very high. Some people questioned, are we getting another continuation of The Future Bites? Is this going to be a clunker or not? I've listened to this album about 3 times now, and wow, what an unbelievable recording. And the thing about Steven Wilson is he's such an enigma. He can hit you and throw so many different things at you without you expecting it. He could be really heavy, he could be very light, he could be very atmospheric. You don't really know what you're getting from Steven Wilson, but with the Harmony Codex, this is Steven Wilson back at his very best. And in a way, you could kind of look at this album as kind of like some of his earlier solo recordings mixed in with a bit of Porcupine Tree influence, which is of no surprise because, Steven Wilson is such a dominant figure in Porcupine Tree, as well as many of his other projects that he's been involved in over the course of his 3-decade career already. So this album, as I said, highly anticipated, very enjoyable, and absolutely fantastic. And as you'd expect from Steven Wilson, the best sound, the best production, and of course, the best musicians. Now, the Harmony Codex is kind of a different album to previous Steven Wilson recordings. He's kind of done things like this before, but with the Harmony Codex, it's a series of tracks. It's basically one big track divided up into several movements, shall we say, and each track syncs up and goes straight into the next. So really and truly, you're listening to one big piece of music, and it's made up of 10 tracks, and it's got lots of different influences. There's some proggy tracks, there's some poppy numbers, there's some very dark and atmospheric numbers, there's also some psychedelia influence in here. It's all there, everything that and love Steven Wilson for, it's all here, and wow, it's absolutely amazing. Now, with this album, The Harmony Codex, it's a lot more instrumental. It focuses more on sounds, soundscapes, and lots of atmospheric environments whereas opposed to the previous albums, they were more heavier, proggier, and rockier kind of albums. And in a way, I suppose you could say that the Harmony Codex is kind of like a concept album. So, as I said, the Harmony Codex is kind of like a concept album. Stephen Wilson explains that this album is a genre spanning collection that opens up like a musical puzzle box with lots of different styles and lots of different genres, as I said already. And Wilson explains that this album is musically more complex than anything that Stephen Wilson has done previously. And of course, Stephen Wilson plays virtually everything: electric and acoustic guitars, bass, electronics, keyboards, and piano, and of course, vocals as well. And a lot of the musicians that are featured on this album have all played at different points with Stephen Wilson in his bands, whether it is in the studio or live. And they're all here, all of the names that we have all come to associate Stephen Wilson for are all here. So the following musicians that are featured on the Harmony Codex are Adam Holzman on piano and keyboards, Ben Coleman on violin, Craig Blundell on drums, David Kolar on lead guitar and ambient guitar, David Costin on programming, Guy Pratt on bass, Jack Dangers on electric beats and programming, Jason Cooper on tom drum, Lee Harris on psychedelic guitar, Nate Wood on drums, longtime bassist Nick Beggs on Chapman stick, Nico Tozanev on guitars, who played on the first Stephen Wilson live recording, Get All You Deserve, Nate Navarro on fretless bass and bass, who was the touring member for the last Porcupine Tree continuation closer tour. And we've also got Niels Peter Molivre on trumpet, Ninette Tayeb on vocals, Pat Masterletto on drums from King Crimson, Rotem Wilson on vocals, and Theo Travis on saxophones and flutes. So the usual suspects are all here. And as I said, all of these musicians at all different points have all played with Stephen Wilson, whether it's in Porcupine Tree or in his solo projects. These guys are all long-time collaborators of Stephen Wilson, and they've all been a huge part of Wilson's music, especially guys like Nick Beggs, Adam Holzman, and Theo Travis. And Craig Blundell, in recent years, has been a permanent fixture in Stephen Wilson's solo projects. So let's have a look, shall we? So yes, as you can see, signed by the man himself. Great stuff here. So a full breakdown of who plays on what tracks and who's playing what instruments as well. And we've also got the lyrics here as well. Very dark and ominous here. And we've got more lyrics here too. And some more lyrics here as well. And there he is, the man himself, Mr. Stephen Wilson. So tracks we've got here are Inclination, What Life Brings, Economies of Scale, Impossible Tightrope, Rock Bottom, Beautiful Scarecrow, the title track, The Harmony Codex, Time Is Running Out, Actual Brutal Facts, and Staircase. Excellent stuff here. And as I said, it's one piece of music made up of 10 tracks, and it's like listening to an audio play come to life. There's such a deep story going on here, lots of different sounds, lots of ambience and atmospheric numbers, and it's absolutely fantastic. This is exactly what I love about Stephen Wilson. This is Stephen Wilson at his absolute best, and for me, this was definitely worth the wait and a huge step up from the future bites. I still defend it though. I still say The Personal Shopper was the best track of the entire album. I still stand by that. But for me, the Harmony Codex more than makes up for that album and really takes you on an amazing journey. And the thing about the Harmony Codex is once it's over, you're thinking, oh, is that it? I kind of wanted more because you're so engrossed in the music that it just flies by. So, standout tracks for me are Inclination, What Life Brings, Impossible Tightrope, which is like almost 11 minutes long, and it just sounds like the Lost Porcupine Tree track. You know, it's got such a build up, you know, dun 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 dun, and then just before you know it, it just goes into this great big crescendo. Goes dun dun dun. Oh, it's just absolutely fantastic. And Theo Travis, the sax playing on it is just Theo Travis is just amazing. He's just an absolute machine. To me, this kind of sounds like "Don't Hate Me" from Porcupine Tree's "Stupid Dream." You know, something on the lines of that. It's just really, really good, and the drumming on there is just really, really picks up the pace. Rock Bottom, another great track with the lovely Ninette Tayeb. What I've always loved about Ninette Tayeb is her vocal range is just absolutely out of this world, and harmonically she matches up so well with Stephen Wilson, and it's one of the most beautiful tracks of the entire album. I really, really enjoy listening to those two working with one another and their vocals bouncing off each other. It's just absolutely a real blast to hear. The title track, the Harmony Codex, absolutely gorgeous. Time is Running Out, another great track. Actual Brutal Facts, another great track. And Staircase, another great track here as well. But all of these tracks from start to finish are just absolutely fantastic. But I would say that all of these tracks, they're all good. You know, some are longer than others, obviously. But with the Harmony Codex, it's one of those albums you've really got to listen to all of it to fully appreciate what Stephen Wilson is trying to deliver here, because you can put any track on and listen to it and enjoy it. But I think with the Harmony Codex, which makes this one a huge improvement over the future bites, is it's a true listening experience. You've got to really listen to it to fully appreciate the concept that Stephen Wilson is trying to present. And also with the Harmony Codex, I feel that it's a slow burner. It's not going to be one of those albums where it's going to punch you in the face and say, wow, that was a hell of a punch. That was really good. It's a slow burner. It's one of those albums you've got to really listen to a couple of more times to fully appreciate it. But I can honestly tell you now that this album by no means isn't terrible. It's absolutely fantastic. Could it be prog album of 2023? Well, if it isn't, it's certainly very close. It's definitely up there. And this album has got a lot of positive acclaim, lots of great feedback. I haven't heard one bad comment about this album. I haven't heard anyone say, well, it was okay, but it wasn't as good as this one or the one before that. Everybody who I've seen talk about this album have all said nothing but good things, and it's already shaping up to be a huge success, and deservedly so. I think Stephen Wilson is back on top form. I think he's kind of learned his lesson now that, you know, doing the whole pop thing just wasn't going to cut it for him. But you never know. You know, that's the thing with Stephen Wilson. He can always surprise you and throw things at you when you least expect it. But I think Stephen Wilson has put himself back on top. He's come through with another masterpiece, and I absolutely love it. I think this is one of Stephen Wilson's best albums. I definitely put this up there with The Raven and Han Cannoti Race and albums like Insurgentes and Grace for Drowning, certainly equally as good as those albums. It's different, of course. It's not really what you would call a full-on prog album, although there are some proggy tracks on this album, but it's a very different kind of album, but at the same time, it's very, very enjoyable. I absolutely love it, and I'm looking forward to when he announces his dates for the solo tour, because I really want to catch Stephen Wilson live again. I've only seen him once. That was back in 2015 for the Hand Canotti Race Tour, one of the best shows I've ever seen, and I'd love to see Stephen Wilson again, especially for this album. I think it's going to sound absolutely amazing live, and I'm really pumped for it. So there you have it. Stephen Wilson, The Harmony Codex, highly anticipated, well worth the wait, and more than delivers the goods, and an absolute masterpiece. Stephen Wilson has once again done what he does best, and that's make a great album. So there you have it. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your thoughts on Stephen Wilson, The Harmony Codex? Do you think it's one of his best albums yet? Did you enjoy it? What's your favourite track from The Harmony Codex? Is it Inclination? What Life Brings? Economies of Scale? Impossible Tightrope? Rock Bottom? Beautiful Scarecrow? The title track, The Harmony Codex, Time Is Running Out? Actual Brutal Facts? Or Staircase? Or do you enjoy the entire album from start to finish? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite tracks. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And also, click the link down below if you want to listen to me talking about Stephen Wilson's entire solo catalogue in its entirety. It's definitely worth checking out. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.